In the fourth round, we went for more need. And I needs to see Andrew Makuba in a Raider uniform. Did y'all not see what he did to Gunnar Stockton in the SEC championship game? I need that on my team.
Where people can't wait to come see us. They can't wait to see what we're all about, wherever our fans come from. We do want to fill our stadium up with our guys. I know that we have a good draw for people from out of town. There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Mark, settle down a little bit. But it's real.
Thank God Mark couldn't fuck this one up. We finally got a coach that I respect and I think pretty highly of. And to all those Raider fans that think that this was a bad hire, I mean, I don't know how to call you anything other than dumb.
Duval.
Because let's be honest, Ben Johnson was never coming to us. He was using us for leverage like every other coach has for the last 10 years, maybe. We have a culture builder, someone that's going to actually work with the players. The only downside to this hiring is that we kind of did Antonio Pierce dirty. Not kind of, we definitely did. He deserved better than that. I'm not saying he would have been our coach and was becoming a good coach because he looked overwhelmed every step of the way. But you can't do that to someone, especially when you get the fan base's hopes up and promise them that we're moving in the right direction and we're finally getting that Raider image back. Wait, hold on. No, I'm tripping. That's the store. The Raider way is what I was looking for. Yeah, you know, Mark kept telling us that the Raider way was back. And then not even halfway through Antonio Pierce's contract, we get rid of him. This guy, Mark Davis sucks, man. Regardless, we finally got our GM and head coach, so the next logical step would be to look at the draft. And I could not think of a better time than right now with the Senior Bowl and East-West Shrine game happening this weekend. So, me being a fan, I did what every fan is doing right now. I went on PFN because I can't afford PFF and made my own little mock drafts. I did 10 of them. And I took an aggregate of the most common players that would be available at that time. There's one caveat. I did no trades because it's super unlikely anyone wants to trade with us. For one, the league hates us. So, I mean, we're going to have to trade 3 times what any other team would have to trade just to move up one spot. And I just don't think it's worth it at that point. And the second thing, we have no assets that are really worth a damn at this point. Besides Max, and come on, if you're watching this, you know we're not getting rid of Max. Even if he wants out, we're going to just keep him in a box. Without further ado, let's get into it. So with the number 6 pick, a lot of times we're left with Mason Graham or Will Johnson. I got a couple Abdul Carters, but I don't know if he'll be there realistically. And I got one Shador Sanders. I don't think that's likely at all, to be honest with you. I think he's going regardless, 1, 2, or 3, he's going to New York. They're just not going to let him go. They love the man. I think he's good at football. I don't think we're going to try to break the bank for him, but it is what it is. Most of the time I went Will Johnson because if you really think about it, Jack Jones is gone. We just fired the guy that he trusts the most. We don't have very good corner depth, period. We don't have a number 1. Will Johnson projects as a starting caliber corner. He has all the physical tools. He's a physical cornerback. He's like Terrion Arnold last year, but more ready for the league. And that's what Terrion Arnold's whole thing was being able to play immediately coming out of Alabama. This is what I see with Will Johnson, but he's just meaner. If we really look at his season, the game that I remember the most, him against USC, and USC was down, but he jammed all these receivers at the point of attack. It was crazy how he manhandled some of them. They're huge receivers too. Couldn't get off the line. So that's why it excites me that he's there. And most people are projecting him to go to us regardless. So I just feel like that's the right pick. But you also couldn't go wrong with Mason Graham. We got to wait and see. Spytech is known for drafting defensive line guys and offensive line guys. And Mason Graham is exactly what you want. I mean, that Michigan team should have been better. When you have these two on that side of the ball, no one should have scored. And if you look at their numbers as a team, their defense was great. Their offense was atrocious. Straight booty juice. And realistically, with Patrick Graham's defense, Christian Wilkins could move to that outside 3 technique defensive tackle, and you could put Mason Graham at nose. So either one, you can't go wrong. I just prefer Will Johnson, but here I'm going to show you. I even have Mason Graham and some other ones. For the second round pick, this is a make or break pick for our entire franchise. Not that it matters if these guys start, but it matters who you pick. This is where you get your quarterback. Really, depending on how these Senior Bowl practices go, you might have to use that first round pick for him. But in my eyes, Jackson Dart's the pick here. I mean, what are we doing? You really like Milroe? Anyone really like Milroe? He has baby hands. All right, that's a joke. But in all fairness, like this guy, decision making is terrible. And that's saying a lot because Jackson Dart's decision making isn't very good either. But I trust him with the ball more than I trust Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe, skill set wise, is far closer to Anthony Richardson. Now, I'm not saying that leadership wise he is, because I do think that Jalen Milroe, everyone who's ever been around him has said nothing but good things. So I'm not saying that he's going to quit on his team or, ask for a sub mid game like Richardson, but I don't trust him enough to pick him with our second round pick. I trust Jackson Dart, at least when it comes to throwing the ball and his accuracy, more than I trust Milroe. That really is what it boils down to. Athlete wise, yeah, I mean, Milroe's in a league of his own, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. But you just need a good athlete that can throw the ball, not necessarily a great athlete, someone that can get the ball where it needs to go. And Jackson Dart doesn't have a small arm either. He has a pretty good arm. I don't know where this myth came that he can't throw the ball. I'm not saying it's a 70-yard arm, but it's like a 65, which is above average in the NFL. And that's all you need, because if you need to throw the ball more than 65 yards, you're not going to win that game regardless. Another option for this second round pick quarterback wise would be Quinn Ewers, who I do like. It's just, unless he's just so good in the pocket, it's hard for me to watch another Raiders quarterback just sit in the pocket for however long it takes and take sacks like we have been with Aiden and Gardner. I can't. And even DC before them. But I mean, if he's there later on, I'd get Quinn. I'd get two quarterbacks. Get however many you want until we fix it. For our third round pick, boy, do I got someone special for y'all. Disclaimer, I am a season ticket holder to the UNLV Rebels, so I got to see a ton of Ricky White. This guy will be the steal of the draft no matter where he goes. I would like it to be with us because if he ends up in Kansas City, we will never beat them. He reminds me of a young Devontae. And I know y'all probably don't want to hear that, especially how everything went down. This is Devontae before the attitude, before the diva. This is the guy that came out of Fresno State. That's who we're getting right now. He played on the special teams unit at UNLV, and he was a menace blocking punts. So it don't matter where he plays, he will play early and often. Like I said, he's not the most physically dominant receiver you'll ever see. He's not the fastest, though he does have pretty good speed, but his hands are incredible. He very rarely dropped the ball, and he is a route running technician. I seen him put so many Mountain West kids in a blender, it wasn't even funny. Hell, there was games that UNLV had a really bad quarterback play from the kid that eventually left. I forgot his name. That Ricky was beating his guy off the line. He was confusing him, and he still wasn't getting the ball, but he just dominated opposing DBs. And these weren't all lower level guys. These were like Kansas guys. He played well against Syracuse. Depending on how you feel about Boise State, he struggled in the championship game, but I also think that the offense struggled as a whole. In the earlier matchup, he actually did pretty well. So I think this is the guy that you got to get if you're trying to rebuild your receiving core. This is definitely a guy that Pete Carroll will absolutely love. He's a great leader. He had a chance to jump in the portal, but decided to stay and try to win something at UNLV, which I'm happy he did, but I wouldn't have blamed him if he left. That just shows you the character on him. I think he's a first round talent that just so happened to play in a lower league. In the fourth round, we went for more need. And I needs to see Andrew Makuba in a Raider uniform. Did y'all not see what he did to Gunnar Stockton in the SEC championship game? I need that on my team. In all seriousness, he is an athletic safety, which it's a luxury, but I just like how aggressive he plays. He definitely loves playing the run, which, isn't uncommon for most safeties, but it's getting rarer and rarer. and rare. Damn, bro. Rare. It's rare is what I'm trying to say. It's rare nowadays. And he actually plays the ball in the air somewhat. You would like him to come down with more 50-50 balls, but he is only 6 foot, so there's not much you can do with it. He's going to go against really, really big tight ends that are going to catch the ball over him. I just want him to be able to make the tackle once the tight end catches it, because that's been an issue for us for my whole life, actually, being a Raiders fan. We can't stop a tight end, and we just need the safety to be able to come down in the box and make a play. And from what I can tell, he does have good ball skills, but I never played corner, so it's not, or I meant safety, damn. I never played safety, so I can't tell you exactly what he needs to do, but I feel like this is a solid pick. For the next pick, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Cam Skattebo. I love this man. I don't know how to say it otherwise. Like, this guy is who I want to be. It's who I've always wanted to be. He is my king, and we need him on my team. From driving lifted trucks in Tempe, Arizona, to running through motherfuckers' face on the field, this guy he's so cool. I can't say it otherwise. Like, he's just so cool. Is he a little bit slower than you like? Yeah. But he's pretty big. He's like a worse version of Christian McCaffrey because he can catch the ball. And if he can just do that in the league, he'll be a great running back. And at this pick, 107, I don't see why you wouldn't take a chance on a guy like this. He's a heart guy. He's someone that I know Pete would love because he kind of plays like Marshawn, but just like a not as good Marshawn. And to be honest with you, our running back room is not good right now. I like Zamir White, but what he showed in Kansas City a year ago now is just not there anymore. I don't know what happened. And, I mean, Dylan Lobb's cool. He barely plays. The one I really like is Amir Abdullah. I really like him. I mean, but he's a little old now, so you got to start upgrading that room. Madison was cool too, but I mean, I think you would get the same production out of Cam, and then there's someone a little bit later on that we'll talk about that I think could really be a sledgehammer when you need him. This is my favorite pick besides the Ricky pick. And it's also because I got to see him at the same time watching Ricky and Jackson Woodard. Jackson Woodard is Robert Spillane, just younger. He's honestly an underrated pass coverage guy, which is crazy when you think about how many interceptions he had for UNLV this year. But he's just an old school mean linebacker that has new school tendencies. He comes downhill in the run and he can be
Was it a year so far?
he's sticky in passing lanes. Whenever the quarterback was throwing at him this year, very few times did he not come down with the ball. As a linebacker, to have hands like this is actually really impressive. And I almost feel like he might be playing himself into earlier rounds, which would hurt us in this sense with the mock draft. But the more people see of him, just like with Ricky, the more people see of both of these guys, the more football fans will like him. I'm just telling you this from my perspective, someone that's got to see him play and was super happy for these guys. He could be a building block to make this defense more physical and more aggressive going forward. Because I know that Patrick Graham has a bend but don't break type of defense, but if you get guys like Woodard, I think it allows you to do more, especially up front. You could probably blitz more because he has the whole middle covered. I'm not trying to overstate things, but I think this guy is actually the best linebacker, at least from the middle spot, right? Because look at the edge outside linebacker spot it's a weird thing to judge. But interior linebackers, I think he is the best. At 182, we went with Kyle Monangai, who actually would have, if he would have came out last year, he would have gone in the first 4 rounds, but he didn't. And it really hurt him this year. They ran the living shit out of this guy at Rutgers. I felt bad for him. I got to watch him play against USC. That's actually whenever he got a concussion, which it is a scary injury for someone just coming into the league because you continue getting them. But I think he's the perfect goal line guy. He's a little bowling ball. He was Rutgers' offense for 3 years. And really, he was their offense this year. It's just he got hurt. At 5'9", 209, he's going to have to put on some weight. But the way he plays is straight up downhill. He's not going to try to juke people out, which if you're trying to make plays isn't the greatest thing. But if you're just trying to get first downs, then this is your guy. And like I said before, our running back room is not where I think it needs to be a winning football team. So that's why I added 2 running backs within the span of 3 rounds. So to start off the 6th round, I went with the edge from BYU, Tyler Batty. He's a high motor guy, which I know that doesn't sound the greatest because it usually means unathletic, but in this case, he actually has some athleticism. He just doesn't quit on a play. He actually reminds me a lot of Kyle Van Noy. He was relatively productive too in most of his games played, so it's not like he's just a guy that came on in 1 year. He's been doing this for a little bit. And BYU guys usually produce. That's all I can really say about it. I feel like he has a chance to not only make the roster but possibly be in the rotation. And for a 6th-round pick, that's pretty good. With our second 6th-round pick, I actually picked Shiloh. And this is kind of one of those like, well, I hope it happens because if we really look at it, he's going wherever his brother's going. But just in case, I actually think Shiloh's a pretty damn good safety at the college level. And I hope it translates. What I'm banking on right here is the genetics, he has professional genetics. And he is also one of these aggressive safeties that'll come up and make a big hit. And I just miss that in football. We need that back in football. Please, someone bring it back. These referees are ruining the game. Kansas City's about to win another. Never mind. For our last pick, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I made this pick off of one game, and I think he actually ended up playing pretty good throughout his whole career. I just paid attention to the Oregon State UNLV game. Jarrad, and that's his name. His name is Jarrad. Christian Lichtenhan. He looked pretty good, man. Like I was just explaining to you about the UNLV guys that I have in this draft. That defense as a whole was pretty good, though. And that game, we got no pressure. Matter of fact, if Oregon State's quarterback just didn't suck ass, they might have beat us. But regardless of that, though, he's a huge 6'7", like 330. This guy can move people if he gets underneath him. The only issue is that he doesn't ever really get low enough. And you can blame that on him being as tall as he is. You just would like to see it more. And to be honest with you, the more I watch his highlights, the more I realized I picked off of school, size, and need instead of really looking at the player. A quick honorable mention, I don't know where he's going to go, but this Mike Green guy from Marshall, he's been destroying offensive linemen at the Senior Bowl practices. He is bullying them and embarrassing them. It's not even fair. And as a former JV offensive lineman, my guy, you ain't need to embarrass them like this, man. They're trying to eat too, they're trying to get paid. You ain't got to be a bully all the time. Damn, it's practice. Relax. Anyways, that's how I'd get us out of this mess. I think y'all should like the video because it's the only joy I have because the Raiders made sure that I am in a deep depression for at least a year. And then I'll get happy when the season comes along. Just get back in that depression once we start playing football again.
Riders! Riders! Goddamn right.